Subscribe to get Curried and click on the bell icon for more updates.
Shepherd's pie is a classic recipe for Christmas. I like to make mine with a nice layer of minced meat at the bottom and a creamy silken layer of mashed potatoes on top. So let's get started with the recipe. I have 350 grams of potatoes that have been boiled till fork tender, which I'm going to continue to mash now. So these are still nice and warm, so it'll be easy for me to mash them. After giving this the first round of mashing, I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of butter to start with. This is regular salted butter that you have at home. Just work that into the mashed potatoes. I'm going to add about 2 pinches of salt and then a good amount of black pepper. Just mix that in and mash it one more time till it's nicely distributed. The mashed potatoes are really nice and creamy right now, so I'm going to set these aside and move on to cooking the minced meat now. Before I start cooking the minced meat, I'm going to make the flavor bomb or the base for the minced meat. For this, I'm going to use 1 stick of celery that's been chopped finely, half a carrot that's been chopped finely, and 1 onion that's also been chopped up finely. Now just grind this to a fine paste. That's lovely. Now I can move on to cooking the minced meat. To this pan, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of regular oil and about half a tablespoon of butter. Just let the butter melt. To this, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of finely minced garlic. Just let that cook a bit. Swirl that around the pan. Now to this very fragrant mixture, I'm going to add this paste that we had just ground up. Swirl that around the pan. I'm just going to look to cook this really fragrant mixture for a bit and add only a tiny pinch of salt at this stage. It'll really help bring out the flavors. And just continue cooking this. I'm going to add just a tiny amount of pepper at this stage. And continue to saute this. I'm looking for this to cook down slightly. I've sauteed this mixture continuously for 5 minutes on a low flame and it's cooked down beautifully and released all its flavors. So now I'm going to add 250 grams of minced meat. Just break that down and mix it with this mixture really well. Now keeping the flame on low, very important. You don't want this lamb to dry out. I'm going to add about 3 teaspoons of Worcester sauce. This is a special ingredient for this recipe, so make sure you find it. A tiny amount of grated nutmeg. And a little bit of pepper. I'm not adding salt at this stage because Worcester sauce has it, and I'm also going to add some stock. Mix all of this together really well. Now to this, I'm going to add half a cup of vegetable stock. You can use some wine as well. Just add that in. Now take the flame up slightly high, and when it comes to a simmer, turn it back to low and continue cooking this until the stock water has almost dried out. The stock has almost dried out, so this is the time to adjust the flavor slightly. I'm going to add another teaspoon of Worcester sauce. Stir that in. Some fresh oregano leaves. You can also use dried oregano. Go with about half a teaspoon if you're using dried oregano. The minced meat is perfectly cooked. The flavors are just right. So I'm just going to turn off the flame and layer this into this 6.5-inch square pan. Just spread that out. Now over this layer of the minced meat, I'm going to layer on the mashed potatoes that we had made earlier. Just plonk them on and spread it out again evenly. With a fork, I'm just going to make a crisscross pattern on the mashed potatoes here. That'll just ensure that when we bake them, we get a nice brown layer on top. My oven is preheating to 200 degrees Celsius. I'm now going to bake this shepherd's pie for 15 minutes in the oven, and in the last 10 minutes, I'm going to turn the heat to broiler, which is the top heating only, which will help brown these mashed potatoes. This shepherd's pie is bound to be a hit at your Christmas party. It's got the perfect meat to potatoes ratio. I hope you'll try this recipe really soon and subscribe to Get Curried for loads more.